Welcome in, everybody, to the 14th episode of the Free Play Podcast. I am the host, Eli Scales, and we're going to have a good episode today. First one in 2 weeks, missed last week's episode. Today we're going to be covering college basketball coaching carousel. That was crazy. We had a lot of coaching changes. Opening week of the MLB. We've had a little bit more than a week, but I'm just going to call it opening week. And then Cooper Flagg versus Con Knoepel, the Rookie of the Year debate has probably been settled, and it kind of shifted in a major way. And then lastly, wrapping it up with some quick Masters predictions. Not the biggest golf enjoyer, but of course we all love to turn on the Masters and see how that's going to go in the final couple of days of that tournament. With that being said, welcome to the 14th episode of the Free Play Podcast. So starting off with this college basketball coaching carousel, this was not supposed to be that hectic of a cycle. There was not that many high-level, mid-major coaches that were obvious candidates to jump up a level. So many, including myself, thought that most programs were just going to stick with their guy. They were going to stick it out for another season and just continue to see if maybe they can work it out while some other higher level candidates reach the pool next year. So that ended up not happening. I mean, we can probably just accept this. We can probably just expect this from every college basketball offseason from now. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be hectic. We're going to see changes that we didn't anticipate, and that certainly delivered this offseason. One of the highest level mid-major coaching candidates there was Brian Hodgson from USF. Took his Bulls to the tournament, and they did lose in the first round to Louisville, but he did end up switching jobs. He goes to Providence, picks them over Syracuse, and he wanted to return back to the Upper East Coast, which is where he grew up, and he was able to do that by landing with the Friars. And as a result, Syracuse pivots to Jerry McNamara from Siena. They took Duke to the wire in the round of 64 game, which was an incredible watch. And he's a former coach at Syracuse, former player at Syracuse, and he's looking to end their tournament drought. I mean, they haven't been back to the tournament in, I believe, 5 or 6 years. So it's been quite some time for Syracuse where they have not been in the tournament, and Jerry McNamara is there to hopefully rebuild them back into what they were in the 2000s with Carmelo Anthony and the 2010s when they made the Final Four in 2013, among other years with guys like Tyler Ennis. I mean, those were some really, really good teams. And then we have, obviously, the earliest coaching position filled in the cycle with Kansas State hiring Casey Alexander from Belmont after missing out on Jared Calhoun, Josh Schertz, Allen Huss, to name. I think Casey Alexander is kind of exactly what K-State needed. He's kind of a quiet, reserved guy, and he's a strong identifier of talent, which is going to help them because they're going to have a reduced NIL budget going forward after how much money Jerome Tang blew. So overall, I do like the hire of Casey Alexander. It looked like Allen Huss would be the guy after Jared Calhoun turned them down, but as the next note here on my list is Greg McDermott retired at Creighton, which was somewhat of a surprise. We knew that McDermott had been planning this for a little bit because he did appoint Huss as the head coach in waiting, but we didn't think it would be this offseason necessarily for me in particular. But former High Point head coach, he coached them really well there. He moved to Creighton last year to be the head coach in waiting and was a former Creighton assistant. So this is a guy who has deep roots at Creighton, which makes sense why he would not want to leave there for K-State, knowing that he was just going to be getting the job just a month or two later. And then, of course, Jared Calhoun turns down K-State, goes back to his alma mater, Cincinnati, by way of Utah State. And I think Jared Calhoun is a good hire for them. I think he's kind of what they needed. I think he's a good coach, brings some of that Bob Huggins flair and intensity back into the Cincinnati program. And Utah State, losing their head coach, pivots, brings in Ben Jacobson, which honestly may be the most surprising hire of the entire head coaching carousel this year. Many, including myself, did not think Ben Jacobson would leave Northern Iowa ever. I mean, he kind of missed his window in the early 2010s back when the Panthers and the Shockers were dueling it out in the MVC, but he did bring them back to the tournament last year. Had a very good run in Arch Madness. So I think we didn't really expect Ben Jacobson to leave the Panthers, but he did, and now he's at Utah State. He's in one of the highest mid-major coaching jobs in the country, and he will certainly have a higher NIL budget than he did at Northern Iowa. So it'll be interesting to see what a guy like Ben Jacobson with his level of success can do at a place like Utah State, and how that might open the door for him to move on to another high major position for the first time in his career. Then we have the Carolinas. These were the two that made the biggest splashes. Well, I guess NC State didn't make a splash, but North Carolina certainly did. North Carolina fires Hubert Davis after getting upset in the round of 64 by the VCU Rams, and they kind of struck out on a lot of high-level candidates. They went after candidates like Brad Stevens, Tommy Lloyd, Dusty May, Nate Oates, Josh Schertz, etc., and they got turned down by all of them. So it looked like, one guy that could be potentially the suitor for that position was Billy Donovan. Ends up he's sticking with the Bulls, it seems. So they go after former Nuggets championship winning coach Mike Malone, which I didn't think that was a coach that was on the board for them, but I do like the hire. I think it's a good decision, and he's never been a college head coach before, but he's going to be a great schematic coach for them. I have no doubt about that. So it's just about surrounding himself with the right GM, the right NIL booster presence, and overall just the right roster building people so that he can have good strategies into bringing in these players, because that's honestly the biggest adaptation that most of these older coaches have to find is some people that can come in and help manage the roster building portion of the program, because it's almost like two separate entities at this point. I mean, roster building, it's a common phrase that NFL GMs say all year round, that roster building is a 365-day strategy. I mean, it takes every minute, every hour, every day to build a team that's national championship caliber, and I think that's something that Mike Malone is going to have the capability to bring in high-level NBA front office minds and to bring them into North Carolina and gather their expertise in how they would manage the program. And then LSU gets Will Wade back from NC State. Will Wade was fired years ago at LSU for some recruiting violations, is essentially what it was. Ends up going to McNeese State, kind of rebuilds his career, brings them back to the tournament 2 years in a row, ends up winning a game or two. I can't remember how many he exactly won, but they went on a phenomenal run there with McNeese. And so he pivots, joins NC State, is there for just 1 year where they lose in the first four, and then moves back to LSU, which is just crazy. I mean, LSU has had maybe the craziest stretch in college sports over the past year. I mean, firing Brian Kelly, paying that massive buyout, getting Lane Kiffin, paying that buyout and the salary of Lane Kiffin, then buying out Will Wade, buying out their old coach, and paying Will Wade. I mean, it's unbelievable, not to mention the amount of money that they spend on their rosters, too. It's crazy. So that was certainly a wild move that, I mean, as the move got closer, some people saw it coming, but, Will Wade's a good coach, but I think this is probably just a little bit too much for him. Like, he's not worth all this. Like, LSU probably could have gone in a different direction, but still, for a program like LSU, being able to get a guy like Will Wade is probably above their tier for how good they've been the last couple of years. And then NC State pivots to Justin Gainey, former player and current Tennessee assistant coach. So he's kind of been learning under Rick Barnes over at Tennessee, and so now he's going to go back to NC State, where he was a former player in the late 90s and early 2000s. And then Luke Murray, the son of Bill Murray, who many of you guys probably know, is a UConn assistant, and he took the Boston College job, which is known as one of the hardest in the country because of their lack of NIL support and just overall boosters there. So that'll be a tough job for him, but they built up an incredible program at UConn, so it'll be interesting to see how he can help build maybe the next UConn of the ACC over at Boston College. And then the last note, maybe probably the biggest one of them all, Bill Self announcing his return to KU. I mean, this just raises the floor for KU so much next year, and it kind of gives them time to continue to ponder their backup plan. It genuinely did look like Tommy Lloyd had some interest in the position, and so I think that's probably the guy that they're going to try to go after. I could see maybe a scenario where Ben McCollum will go from Iowa, but he is an Iowa guy, so I would almost imagine next offseason, if Bill Self does retire, it'll be between Jock Vaughn or Tommy Lloyd. That's probably the two guys that I would say is probably the front runners as of now if Bill Self retires after next year. Now moving into some MLB storylines, just some quick news and notes to get you caught up on who's been hot, who's had incredible performances. And the first one of that was Joe Adell, with maybe the single greatest defensive game of all time, robbing 3 homers in a 1-0 win over the Mariners. An incredible performance, final out of the game, falling over the right field wall, catching the ball in the stands. Incredible catch from Joe Adell. And this was a guy who struggled mightily at the start of his career, and he really found his footing last year, had a bunch of home runs, and now the glove seems to be finally coming around for him. On the other side of the Angels outfield, we have Mike Trout being Mike Trout. I mean, 33 at-bats, 3 RBI, 2 homers, 8 runs scored, 859 OPS, 2 steals, 11 walks for Mike Trout. He was super hot the first week of the season. He did cool off a little bit recently, but Mike Trout's just a guy who's going to put up numbers if he's healthy, and he's continuing to do that. Now, that point about being healthy is brought up because he did get pulled from the game 2 nights ago, I believe, for being hit in the hand. The x-rays did come back negative, but we know with Mike Trout, he's made of glass, and it's only a matter of time before he probably ends up on the IL. So you don't want to see him getting hit like that early in the season. And he acknowledged it too. He brought up a point in the press conference about him continuously being pitched inside, and he doesn't appreciate when pitchers do that because of their sporadic control. So, I mean, that's where you get Mike Trout out, though. So it's tough for him, but still, us as baseball fans, we love to see a healthy Mike Trout because we know just how good of a player he can be. The Red Sox, who I thought were going to be a really good team this year, they start the year 2-7, dead last in the AL East. The AL Central looks to be a complete mid-fest, as it typically is. The White Sox and Twins probably will see themselves out of the division race at some point, but the other teams in the division have struggled so far. We're going to have a super tightly clustered pack of the way I see it. We're going to see the Guardians, the Royals, and the Tigers just all fused together for a majority of the season, and then we might get to the All-Star break, trade deadline, and we might see some of these teams start to separate a little bit with some moves being made at the deadline. And overall, I still do think the Royals and the Tigers are going to come out on the division, but certainly have not liked what I've seen from the Tigers so far, but you can also make the same point about the Royals. The Marlins are currently the 3rd best team in the NL by tiebreakers, which is crazy. Love to see the Marlins playing well. They're a super young and fun team. The Giants struggled really bad to start the year. They got swept by the Yankees in the opening series at home, and they're just 3-7 on the season right now. Yordan Alvarez is honestly making his case for AL MVP. He's probably the front runner right now, especially with Bobby Wood Jr. struggles, and he's just been incredible. I mean, Yordan Alvarez is this type of guy we know. He was above average last year, but had so many injuries he hardly played. And now this year, he's leading all players in OPS. He's just been tremendous for the Astros, even though they haven't been that good. And then Chase DeLauter and Shea Bangaliers leading the MLB in home runs at 5 apiece. And I mean, Chase DeLauter being tied for the MLB lead in home runs as a rookie is crazy. He's probably the AL Rookie of the Year front runner right now, which is kind of crazy because Chase DeLauter was not on many people's radars, but that's typically how these things go. But we'll just have to monitor it throughout the season because there's so many good young prospects like Carter Jensen, Kevin McGonigal, and the AL, just to name a few, that can definitely be put in that race. And then the last one, second to last one, Andy Pages leads MLB in average and hits after batting sub 100 in the playoffs last year and getting benched. That was crazy last year because Andy Pages put up good numbers, but he's been really good for the Dodgers. Stability in their lineup, which is exactly what they need down at the bottom of the order. And Andy Pages bounced back in a big way after the playoffs last year, which is good to see. I do like Andy Pages. And then Mason Miller has a good chance, honestly, in my opinion, to win the NL Cy Young. I mean, the dude is filthy. He's tied for the league lead in saves. He's yet to give up a run, 11 strikeouts in 4 1/3 innings. This is easily the best closer season we've seen since Emmanuel Clase in 2024, and he did get third place Cy Young votes that year. So honestly, Mason Miller will get Cy Young votes. I have no doubt in my mind about that. But with how much Paul Skeens has struggled to start the year, and Shohei, I don't think he's much of a threat for the NL Cy Young. And the only one I could see, it's going to be up to Yamamoto. If he stays healthy, I could see, especially with Logan Webb's struggles. I mean, he's as steady as they come, but he's been really bad. Mason Miller, if some people go bad, Mason Miller has the opportunity to be one of the first closers since, I believe, the early 2000s to win Cy Young, which would be crazy. And, I mean, he can even get some length if he needs to for the Padres. He's just a versatile weapon for them. Now moving into some NBA, we have the Rookie of the Year debate, Cooper Flagg and Con Knuppel. I think at this point, we can pretty much decide it's over. For the majority of the season, it honestly felt like it was Con Knuppel. I mean, the first half of the season or so felt like it was Cooper Flagg, and then he goes down with the injury near the All-Star break, and then we kind of pivoted back to Con. And then throughout the injury, Con started playing well, and then Cooper Flagg comes back from injury, and he's just dominated. I mean, the last 2 games for Cooper Flagg have been just downright incredible. I mean, Cooper Flagg lost some of his hype after the injury, and he's on such more of a worse team than the Hornets and Con Knuppel, but I think the hype is honestly as strong as it's ever been. As of April 2nd, Con Knuppel had an 81% chance to win by an underdog, and as of April 5th, he has just a 40% chance to win. So a 41% chance drop off between the first and second of Cooper Flagg's tremendous games. I mean, he put up 51, 6, 3, and 3 against the Magic and 45, 8, 9, and 2 against the Lakers. Just incredible stat lines. And I just wanted to shed some light on some of the records that Cooper Flagg has broken, because this was a guy who had generational titles thrown around before the season. He kind of didn't live up to it at the start. I mean, he had certainly flashes, but he seems to be really showcasing why he got that label. He now holds records for most points in a game by a teenager, 51, passing his own record of 49. Youngest player to score 50-plus points in a game. Most 20-plus point games by a teenager, previously held by Kobe Bryant. Most 40-plus point games by an 18-year-old, previously held by LeBron James. First teenager to score 30-plus points in 3 consecutive games. And just some tremendous records here from Cooper Flagg. I mean, just a super young guy, only 19 years old, 18, 19 years old, that's putting up these numbers. It's incredible. I mean, he deserves Rookie of the Year, to be honest. I mean, Con has had a terrific season. Hornets are a really good, solid squad, to be honest, better than I thought they would be. He has been healthy, and most importantly, he's been a really efficient shooter. He's shooting 43% from 3, which is a great rate for a rookie, especially when you factor in he's scoring 18 points a game. I mean, that's incredible from Con, and he's honestly a solid defender, too. Like, he's not that much of a liability. But, as I mentioned, Cooper Flagg is living up to that generational title, and he's broken just records that, I mean, we're talking about the company of Kobe, LeBron, some of those guys. I mean, these are some of the best players we've seen that have come out of high school and around that similar age as Cooper Flagg is right now. And he's honestly, at this point in his career, going band for band with them. Like, it's just remarkable. And not to mention that Cooper Flagg is also, like, a really good defensive player. I mean, he's one of the best in his position in the league. And I don't think that's crazy to overstate. I mean, he has such a crazy and incredible build, as well as just a really good skill set on the defensive end to really create a presence for the Mavericks, which I think is going to be valuable for them in the future. Now, lastly, moving into some Masters predictions. I'm not that much of a golf guy. I watch a little bit myself. Typically, during breaks while I'm working at the Wind Surge, we'll be watching some golf. So that's kind of when I get my golf fix. So we certainly will be watching the Masters. But I just wanted to go over who's hot right now and who you can expect to potentially be in the mix to win it. So the guy I'm looking in right now is Bryson DeChambeau. I'm a Bryson believer. I love Bryson DeChambeau, and he's hot right now. I think I've been calling it the last couple of years that Bryson might win the Masters. I think this is the year. He's won his last 2 live golf tournaments, so he's on a heater right now, and it just overall feels time. It's time for Bryson to win, and I think there's somewhat lacking of clarity right now at the top of who is going to be up there. I mean, we certainly have guys like Scottie Scheffler, still one of the best in the world, currently the favorite to win. Jon Rahm, former winner of the Masters, he's second place in the odds right now. I believe Bryson is third. But it's we all want to see Bryson win one. I mean, I don't know who hates Bryson at this point in his career. And I always love seeing guys win their first Masters, and that would be Bryson's first. I asked around specifically to golf expert at Andover High School, Andrew Nelson, and he told me that of all the people he watches every weekend on the tour, the guy to look out for is Jacob Bridgman. This was not somebody who I knew. He had worse odds to win the Masters than Jordan Spieth, which is telling you a lot about how the markets are viewing Jacob Bridgman. But recently, he has won the Genesis Invitational, and he was 5th in the Players' Championship. So this is a guy who's kind of had a breakout year on the tour, and he could get hot, and I believe this is one of his first times, if not first time, playing Augusta. So that's also something that's kind of difficult for a new guy on the tour, but he's having a breakout year, and I that would be an incredible snipe from Andrew if he ends up placing anywhere in the top 10, to be honest, because of how far this guy is off the beaten path. And overall, he's playing a lot better than his reputation says, which is honestly kind of what you need going into the Masters. I mean, we've seen guys have crazy performances before, a la Tiger Woods. Jordan Spieth was dominant, but he kind of fell off after that. But particularly sometimes in the Masters, we see guys play above their level, and we see some guys drop off in the spotlight. So overall, it's really tough to predict. Like, I think the Masters is one of the hardest sports events to really predict because we don't know how guys are going to play all of those rounds. I mean, there's so much that goes into it, and Augusta's certainly a very difficult course. So obviously no Tiger Woods this year, so we won't be seeing an incredible story out of Tiger Woods unless he somehow breaks his way out of the facility and ends up, I guess I should say, flying over. But Tiger Woods not expected to participate in the Masters this year, so unfortunate. But Tiger, get well soon. We all want to see you back in the Masters and win another one. 2019 was absolutely generational, just a cinema from Tiger Woods. And but overall, I'm looking forward to the Masters. I think this is going to be fun. My one and only golf tournament of the year that I watch. So I'm looking forward to it, getting my golf fix in over the weekend. And with that being said, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Free Play Podcast, and I'll see you all in the next episode.